Hi, guys. Live from our cryptid camper, I'm Tom here with my good friend Shae. And we'd like to thank you for joining us for Season 1, Episode 19 of the Scare Your Pants Off Our American Road Trip podcast. In today's episode, we're going to set up camp in Pennsylvania. It's going to be good. So how you doing today, Shae?
I am surviving. I am okay today. How are you?
I'm good, tired, a little, not, just a little worn down. Been a long couple weeks and stuff. A lot of stuff going on. So, but good for the most part. So
Well, that's good. I think um I think the last 2 weeks has been very much testing me. And I lost my we lost my heat last Wednesday. And
which
then
is not a good thing up
my
in New England,
fiance, yeah,
guys.
no, bad time. Absolutely. February, not a good time to lose your heat.
Yeah.
And on top of it, it was nights that were like 9 degrees, five
Ugh,
degrees.
ugh.
And then the day after it got fixed, we found out my fiance and my son both have COVID. Um, Quarantined them and tried to keep the house sanitary, but by Tuesday I had COVID,
Ugh.
and now everybody's feeling a lot better. I'm feeling quite a bit better, but my voice is still a little funny, so I apologize. It's my sultry COVID voice, so that's what
Jeez,
I'm
I
going
am
with.
sorry that you're feeling that way and that happened. That's crazy and weird and coincidental and
Yeah,
just
it
yeah.
is.
I'm Jeez, that's not good. Actually, my weirdly enough, last night it's fine now, but my heat went out yesterday for a couple hours as well. Here now, a couple years ago, you remember I had the issue and everything and that was an issue, and it was like it would work, then wouldn't for like weeks on end and stuff. But so hopefully, knock on wood, it's working now. But strange that that happened and you happened. And again, we're up in New England, and you in February, you do not want to lose heat that up here. So,
Nope, you do not. Yeah,
uh, so
it's oddly coincidental to some stuff. So I
yes,
think we'll let the listener maybe see if they can pick up a correlation, but I know we have.
yeah, yeah, seriously. Um, so you have you watched anything good in your time of quarantine?
Right? Perfect time to do that. First I finished Archive 81.
Love that show.
Mind blown. It was awesome. It was so well done, and it was such a creative spin on a semi-common topic, but it was so well done. It was so cool, and it was just great. You finished it, right?
Yes, yes.
I
Love.
apologize.
Oh, it's okay. I loved it. It just like you said, a creative spin on it. The story was great, and then a lot of times with horror shows, horror movies, you get to points where even on the best ones, you get taken out of it. Either there's a twist that doesn't make sense, or the way it ends. I've talked about like Stephen King and endings of
Yeah,
his movies, and how it's like a great movie for hour and 58 minutes, and then the last 2 minutes it's just like
yeah,
but it's all the way through. I really hope there's a second season, which I imagine there will be, because it was one of those sort of Netflix word of mouth that everybody was talking about all of a sudden. So
yep.
great show. I
No,
loved it. I loved it.
they did great maintaining the whole way through. Like the whole way through, it was awesome. My interest was from the start to the end. Just
Yeah.
I was totally vested. So
Yeah, a guy at work told me about it, and I was like, and it's a guy that doesn't normally recommend shows, but when he does, I know they're good because he does it so rarely. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna check this out, and like you said, hooked me right away. Like first couple minutes of the show, it's just like, all right, this is cool, cool subject matter stuff. Oh yeah, very very good. Did
and I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
haven't seen it yet, but it is on my list because I've heard nothing but good things.
No spoils. I won't even go into to anything. But when you do watch it, we'll definitely have to chat because it was great. And then I also watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre on Netflix.
Good. Okay. What were your thoughts? Or what overall, what'd you think?
Overall, I liked it. I did.
Yeah.
There were, I had a couple very, mind you, probably picky issues with it. And being picky, I am. And I will completely acknowledge when it comes to horror movies, I am picky.
Yeah, me too.
But I had a couple small issues with it. How did you feel about it overall?
I overall liked it. Had issues with it though. Like
Okay.
really, like quite a few issues with it.
So how about we go back and forth? I'll say an issue, we'll talk. You say an issue, we'll talk.
Okay.
I had an issue with the fact that they didn't even bring up the Sawyer family. Not even a mention.
I agree. It's you would think as a direct sequel and that they would. And yes. The only thing I will say, and I haven't read too much about it, but apparently there was a lot of issues with this movie. Like they fired or a director either left or got fired like a couple weeks into the production. And then if you notice, it's only an hour and 23 minutes, which is barely a full length feature. That's what I mean? Like that's almost a short. Which I guess there was some issues with that as well. So I like to think, and I don't know this at all, that maybe it was part of it and got cut out for some reason or another, whether it's but I don't know that for all because that was very glaring to me. That's all. So he's not supernatural.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know what? Yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought up that point because I felt like a jerk. Thank you.
How many bullets did he take and just keep going? Like
yeah. And for all of our listeners, if you haven't watched it yet, spoiler alert.
Yes, we should have said that right away. Spoiler, fast forward, or whatever. So
yeah, too many bullets, but the end with the saw up in his jugular and into his face. How is that a thing? It's too. He's not Michael Myers. There's no curse. There's no. He's
not Freddy. He's not in the dream world. He's not Jason Voorhees, who I don't even know what's going on with Jason. I just like it. It's
yes,
but that bothered me a lot because, like I say, it took bullet. I mean, yeah, he seemed even more abnormally strong this time. I mean, throwing a sledgehammer like it was like a throwing star and stuff, and it's just yes. So yeah, all
right. Well, since we're talking about superhuman, I have another superhuman apparently that was also in the movie, and it was I can't remember her name. Hold on, I can't remember character's name. The victim that survived from the previous.
Yes. Oh God, what is her name? I'm drawing a blank too. Not Sally, right?
It is Sally. I think.
It is Sally. Okay.
I think so. So he picked her up with a chainsaw through her, bounced her around a little, and then tossed her. There is, and again, I'm all for exaggerating things in horror movies. I really am. There's something to it, and it's great when it's done right. There's 0% chance, even in horror movie reality, that she's gonna muster up something and somehow still have her gun with her and then manage to shoot it and load it and hand it off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. There was definitely some problematic, and I get it, with it, they're kind of going for a visual, a big visual and this and that with the deaths and how cool can we make the death, but they gotta, especially in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because like I said, it is grounded in reality based on a true person and everything like that, that the kills, they can be cool and still grounded in reality. They don't like you said, that's absurd. Holding her up like you know what I mean, like with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's
So what I think really is the biggest problem with this movie, the one we just watched, is that honestly, like it's competing with the other Texas Chainsaw Massacres that didn't. It was a little outlandish. It was. There were definitely some like, would he have survived that? But you still have that. He may have.
yeah,
Um, it wasn't nearly as outlandish as this seems to be.
yes, I
Um, yeah. But then you go to the mid-credit scene. I apologize.
oh, that's okay.
You go to the mid-credit scene, and you got both the girls in the. I kind of love that it was a self-driving car. I actually kind of thought that was pretty neat. Um, but the fact that he got up from
Yeah,
that and then took the girl and
yeah.
kind of had it, just I don't know. Honestly, like that might have been, that was not the way for me to end that movie.
Did you see the post-credit scene?
Yes. Shit. Did I?
Where do you want me to tell you?
I do.
It's very short. It's him walking up the driveway of the
I
house
did.
from the original. So
So is that the house from the original? Because I don't remember that being the house from the original.
I thought it was. I could be wrong on that, but I thought it was at least supposed to represent the house from the original. I could be wrong on that though. I'll look into it. And I think honestly the biggest problem with the movie though, and kind of is with some of those problems we discussed, kind of fall in with that, is the fact that it was so short, that it was only an hour and 23. So a lot of stuff felt rushed, where it's like it could have been fleshed out a little more. Like the guy that's like in charge, shows him around and he's working on his truck there. The guy from Texas there, like his character could have been fleshed out a little more. A lot of stuff I felt like could have been fleshed out. The woman that takes care of them,
Yeah.
There was, and I think a lot of the problems came with that, and I don't know if that was because of all the production issues that went on or what, but I thought, I totally thought that it should have been another 20, 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And that way it wouldn't have felt so rushed, in my opinion. So,
You actually just reminded me of one other issue that I had that I kind of forgot about.
yeah.
So in the other Texas Chainsaw Massacres, generally when he was collecting his souvenirs, there was almost I don't quite know how to say it, but almost like a sexualized nature to it. I'm not saying it was, like about sex, but it was a sexualized nature to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the lady at the orphanage wasn't actually his mom, but it bothered me a little that he chose her face to wear. Because to me, that is a very sexualized act. Again, I know it's not like horny or anything like that, but it is a very sexualized act. And it's a very,
Yeah.
I don't know. I struggled with the fact that he picked her face. Of the people that were in that van, he picked her face.
I can see that. And yeah, I hadn't really thought of it like that, but now I can totally see what you're saying. It's it's rooted in some sort of sexual dysfunction almost. It's like yeah, I totally, again, I hadn't thought of it, but yeah, I can totally see that. And there are some other little issues here and there that I had. Those were the main. Honestly, like I said, for me, the two biggest were he's not supernatural and the length, and then the other stuff kind of too. I mean, but overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's not what I would have done as a director per se. So it's I was so excited. The video game's coming out soon. I can't. Well, it's for the new systems, which I don't have. I'm not a big video game guy, but I'm probably gonna have to get that one because I'm hearing it. It's looking pretty awesome, and that's my favorite. But anyway, all right. So, any other thoughts on the movie?
No, I think that's it. I think that's all I have for the movie.
Cool. All right. Well, you got a cryptid for me this week?
I do have a cryptid for you this week, and I'm actually really excited about it because it's not your average cryptid for me. It's not really a cryptid that like chases or attacks. It's actually quite the opposite. So I'm going to talk about the squonk. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I have not.
So everybody who listens know I have some weird, sick weakness for cryptids, and if I ever run into one, that is probably how I'm going to die, and I accept that. That's fine. I'm going to try to hug a Wendigo, and I'll be dead. I accept my fate. I know. So I'm going to take you to Hemlock Forest, and its first sighting was actually in 1910. The squonk is pig-like in facial feature and in body shape. Some depictions say that they have a tail, and some say that they don't. And what's kind of neat is they have really greasy-looking skin, and it has warts all over it, but the skin does not fit it. It seems to be sagging off, like it's just trying to like drip away from its body. Now, one really sad thing is that the poor squonk hides most of the time because it's embarrassed by its appearance. I know, it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
And the squonk has a really kind of neat ability, but it's a very sad ability. And if this is real, and this is something that it has, then it's honestly, it was acquired over time in defense, probably. Sorry. So it can dissolve completely into a puddle of its own tears. I know, right? That's awful. And it's funny, but it's awful.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's cool. It's a cool
it is
thing that it can do. But yeah, it's a little sad. His own tears.
I mean, when you're sad like that, I mean, I guess I feel like if I'm sad like that, I'd want to dissolve into my own tears too, and just not, you know. But supposedly, one was captured in the 1940s. And when the person who caught it got home, looked in the sack that they were carrying it in, and it was all that was left was a bunch of goo.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. It said that you can kind of hear them rustling through the forest, and occasionally you can hear a squealing sound, similar but not exactly like a pig. But that's all I got for that one, but I just kind of it's very different from all of the other kind of menacing or like
yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
it's so different, and it's like never heard of it, which I always get excited because you know learning something new, and just love the description of it overall. Like a very good description with the saggy skin, and it's just like a sad, he's hides because of his parents. He turns into a puddle of his tears, or he or she. It's like, like as we research and do these things, we come across a lot of these stories and stuff throughout it that are, we find out came about for certain reasons, whether it's a fable or an allegory or something like that. And that almost reminds me of something like that. It's just very different. I loved it. Like, that's what a cool thing. And it's like, I just have such a funny mental picture in my head. So any listener or viewer out there, if you want to send in a rendering or a sketch of what you think the squonk would look like, please do hit us up at our Gmail or here, or leave a message on a video or something. We'd love to. We'll put it up on an episode, or we'll talk about it or whatever, because really curious what you guys think it looks like. So I have a very funny mental picture in my head. So it's kind of Porky Pig-ish, and but different. So Very cool. Loved it. Loved it.
Thank you.
Well, I had The Haunting this week, and I love this. I'd never heard of it, and now I'm obsessed, and because there's a lot of great stuff in here. So, have you ever heard of Hexenkopf Rock?
No, nope, doesn't ring a bell.
Okay. Hexenkopf Rock, which Hexenkopf, pretty much translates to Witch's Head. So it's Witch's Head Rock, or Hexenkopf Rock. And it's located in Williams Township, about 6 miles south of Easton on Hexenkopf Road in Pennsylvania. Hexenkopf Rock gained fame for its use in the Lenni Lenape healing rituals. A powwow doctor would use transference to help heal the sick. In these rituals, the powwow doctor would transfer the sickness, or what they believed that sickness in the body was actually evil. So they would transfer the sickness or this evil out of the person to an inanimate object. In this area, and in most cases in this area, that inanimate object was Hexenkopf Rock. But it could be a tree, a bush, anything. Actually, it even said it could be a corpse. They can transfer anything that's inanimate. They can transfer the sickness to. So many of these rituals were adopted by the early German settlers in the 1700s. And in 1743, Johann Peter Saylor, who is recognized as the first New World powwow doctor. That's official. He is recognized. He learned it from the Lenni Lenape. He is the first in the United States. He settled in Robesville, not far from Hexenkopf. He was known to gather his medicinal herbs and roots from the area near Hexenkopf Rock. His son Peter Saylor would eventually adopt Johann's powwow practice, and he began, and really he would powwow and do almost all his transference at the Rock. That's where he did all where his father, had a practice. It wasn't always, he grabbed his herbs and roots and whatever else he needed from the area, but didn't always do it at the Rock. And just a little side note here, powwow as a tradition by the Pennsylvania Dutch continued all the way up until 1955, which I thought was pretty crazy. And there are actually modern interpretations to this day that are different, mixed with pagan beliefs and pagan stuff. So they're not exactly, it's not exactly the same type of powwowing, but in some forms, still to this day. So the legend of the Rock, though, comes from the great amount of evil that is believed to be stored in the Rock. And the evil's in there from the powwowing. So legends began to arise about witches using the Rock to cast hexes and curses, as well as using it for their festivals on the Sabbath. Because of these witches, Hexenkopf was said to be most active on April 30th, and I'm going to ruin this word, Walpurgisnacht. It's German or Dutch, and it's basically, that's April 30th. That's their when the witches welcome spring, basically a new year, rebirth of spring, and also the day that they initiate new members into the craft. So anyway, locals began to report seeing frequent bonfires and witch dances happening at or near the Rock. And then legends would say that wives would sneak out at night, and I love this little thing. They would sneak out at night, leaving a broomstick in their place in the bed, so their husbands to trick their husbands so their husbands wouldn't notice they were gone. And they would go to the rock to cast curses and dance and do all that witchy good stuff. So, and actually, these legends of that continued all the way up till the 1940s. And in the 1940s, it was reported that a local woman started complaining that her horses would be in a great sweat in the morning. So,
Okay.
very weird wording. I'm assuming they're just very sweaty, which is so. So most mornings she would find him in a great sweat, and to her this meant, obviously, I mean logically, this is totally sound, that witches had been riding them all the previous night.
Oh, so, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So determined to find the truth, she rode out to the rock one night on her horse. When she returned in the morning, she had gone completely insane. So, another case back in the 1860s, a husband accused his wife of witchcraft when he saw her rub herself with an ointment, then recite an incantation, then hop on a broomstick and vanish. Curious, he repeated the process, but found himself transported to Hexenkoff Rock, where he landed in the middle of a witch's dance. And then the next thing he remembers is just waking up dazed and confused in a neighbor's pig pen. Huh. Yeah, thought that was a little. In another.
Were they sweaty too, or sorry, go on. Were they sweaty
too? Probably. In another instance of the alleged witchcraft in the 1860s, a woman was charged with using Hexenkoff Rock to curse a local farmer's horse and make it sick. So records are a little shaky, but supposedly at first she completely denied it, but then after a couple days of questioning and whatever, admitted to it. So she was sentenced to 1 year in prison, and then upon her release, she would have to stand in the center of town at the pillory for 6 hours, 4 times a year. So, 1860s, weird time.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, 4 times a year for 6 hours a day. So, all right. So I'll get into some of the more of the legends and supposedly haunts that are happening here now. Another one of the legends is of Farmer Brown, the peg-legged, yes, peg-legged like a pirate, the peg-legged Farmer Brown.
Amazing.
Yes. Supposedly was chasing a witch through the woods near Hexenkoff Rock when he fell off a cliff to his death. And people say, to this day, you can still see his apparition some nights, locked in an eternal chase with a demonic force. And you can still hear his peg leg tapping against rocks and in woods and leaves and stuff as he's running and chasing this force. Huh. I love these. And another apparition that is frequently spotted is that of a headless man and his faithful headless dog. Supposedly searching for the white spirit fox that killed them. I love your face right now.
So, they're both headless? Why do they both have to be headless? And did the fox take both of their heads off, or
that's the implication? Because there's no actual why they lost their heads. They're just because of the fox. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here for it. This is very interesting.
A funny mental picture on that one. And then there's another apparition that is seen is that of a man driving a buggy over the cliff, apparently having met this demise due to the years of horrific abuse to his family. Apparently a very rotten man, very just abusive to his wife and children, and yeah, karma's a bitch. He Rode over, didn't realize how close he was, rode over and died. Some of just general activity that's heard in the area is heard or seen near the rock are glowing balls of fire, a woman scream, apparitions of hanged witches. There are reports of eerie noises emanating from the area, and this just weird sound distortion that happens there. So a lot of weird stuff happening, but there's still even more to it. There's one of its most famous, or the reason that these legends, this rock became famous back then and still to this day, and is the glow to it. There's the rock glows in the moonlight in the night at night. It like in the 17 and 1800s, it glowed really, really bright. Now we're in 2022, erosion, whatever, as it still glows at night, but it not as bright, and it's going to be a really like dark night with just like a full moon almost, and then you'll see it. And it was believed because by the early settlers, it was because of all the evil within the rock, because the Lanai Lenape had done their practices there, and then the Johann Peter Sailor and his son doing their practices, as well as the witches and everything. So it was believed there's just a ton of evil within this rock, and that's why it glowed. But of course, science has a reason for most things, and scientifically, the reason the rock glows is due to the high amount of mica and phosphorus lichens within the rock. Apparently, these mixed with night or whatever darkness, create a glow.
Yeah.
So that's the actual scientific reason. Doesn't mean that there's not evil trapped within it, but there's always a scientific reason. And the last sort of legend I'll talk about, and it's almost like a curse, or I don't even know. So so a legend states that any structure in the shadow of the rock will catch fire, and it is actually kind of proved true throughout the centuries. There are semi-frequent fires on or near the property, and a ton of buildings near this property have been struck by lightning and caught on fire. So it's just a weird sort of, I don't know, a curse that was on it or whatever, or a hex or something that happens. And just some of the other weird things that happen to this day in the area. At least 9 young, healthy people have died unexpectedly in the area without a will. There have been a large number of suicides at the rock, mostly women too. And I mentioned the fires, the lightning strikes. This is kind of interesting. Telephone poles cannot be built on the property. When they put them on over the years, a telephone pole, they always fall over, and they can't figure out why these can't, keep falling over. Crop failures in the area to this day. Crop circles have popped up here and there. And then God, I'm drawing a freaking blank. Phone's not working right, camera's not working right in the area, so like some sort of electronic interference happening there. And then this one, interestingly, it's almost impossible to hunt in the area because guns almost always jam up. So, and this has been happening for centuries, and to this day, people complain, that hunting in that area, they cannot fire their gun. So it doesn't work. And that is essentially it. So what's happening here?
So I feel like I got pulled in 3 different directions, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, first of all, great. Honestly, great choice. I've never heard of that. And there was so many different like little things in it, and it was a fantastic choice. So awesome.
Thank you.
But like one of the first things I was thinking is, honestly, and not in every case, but in a lot of cases, it almost seems like some sort of karma maybe being at play.
I can see that.
And especially when you're going into a pagan or a Wiccan standpoint from it, it's what you put out, you get back threefold. And it's but especially when you're talking about the guy that was not very great to his family, and it almost feels like, I don't know, it really almost feels like it could have been that.
I can totally, I totally, I'm a firm believer in karma. So that makes 100% sense to me, for sure.
But then when you talk about it doesn't let people hunt, it jams the guns, it doesn't let telephone poles, really doesn't seem to let anything that's gonna obstruct or destroy the nature within the vicinity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That feels almost like a protection totem.
Oh, okay.
Or a talisman almost, or it really feels like there's a protection in there, and that's honestly kind of beautiful if you think about it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in those terms, but that makes a lot of sense actually. Because it's so in like these modern things, the guns and yeah, that I like that a lot because that does make a lot of sense.
And then my third way of thinking is a more, I guess, like a scientific approach to it. And really, like, your story, really, all three of these, like, it just planted the little seeds of them in my head. And so the rock could be almost like a passive vector in one way, if you think about it. Meaning, so you said the witch doctor is literally taking herbs from around the rock and bringing it to help and heal. So a passive vector is something that it would be an inanimate it would be an inanimate object that can carry a disease, but obviously not contract the disease. Oh, okay. And then it's able to pass it on to other things. And if all these sick people are just going to this rock and basically covering it in germs and disease, and then this witch doctor is taking all of these other herbs from around it and then bringing it to possibly help someone else, it's now introducing that into wherever they brought it. So that's going to add more sick people, right?
Yeah.
The other way to possibly think about it is, so you said it glows, and my mind, when something glows, I know you said that there was the type of rock can have like a glow to it. But my mind immediately goes to radiation on land. If it were underwater, I would have thought like a bioluminescent or something. But on land, I'm immediately, I can't help but think like radiation, and especially where it's still, it's still glowing now, but it's dimmer, and even with erosion, that's still going to be the same rock, and I feel like it wouldn't have lessened over time, but radiation may have. And extremely low doses of radiation. Now, I don't know how low a dose of radiation can be and it still give off like a glow, but like a very low doses of radiation actually can be used to treat like pneumonia and TB and different things like that. So it would almost stand to reason that someone could be near that rock for a period of time and actually feel somewhat better if it is radiation.
I did not know that, and that is fascinating. I love it because I did not know that, and but yeah, that would make sense if that is the case, because like you said, a low radiation. I had never even, I think the whole I probably thought of, but not in those terms. So, but that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It would be very, very low dose. Like, it's not going to make someone else feel sick when they're near it, but it's a low enough dose to not cause harm. But it's, yeah. So
love it.
Thank you.
Love it. It's that's why I love talking about these things, because those are all things that I hadn't thought about, and then I know that you're much more knowledgeable when it comes to pagan and Wiccan stuff than me. I just have a passing familiarity with that. So no, that's great. I would love to go here. I've seen two conflicting reports. It is definitely on private property. But I've seen conflicting reports. One of the reports said, as long as you check with the owners of the property, they will let you go see it, but you must check with them because they don't want just people trampling in because of damage to the area and everything like that. And then the other report says, absolutely not. They don't let anybody on the property. So either way, I'd love to check it out at some point. And yeah,
I did have one other. It's a humorous thought, so it's not really giving creed to anything. But so you said this happened April 30th.
Yes.
A
lot of the stuff happens on the 30th. That's when the rock's most active, on the 30th.
So that's around the time of the pagan Sabbath, Ostara, which is beginning of spring. It's it celebrates fertility and whatnot, which part of fertility, obviously, we all know is maybe partaking in some not so appropriate things. And all I was thinking when you were telling me that these horses are sweaty in the morning and the pigs are sweaty, it's spring fever. That's really a thing. Like, that is absolutely I've never seen a sweaty horse. I don't know that I want to see a sweaty horse, but yeah, I can't help but think that might have had something to do with it.
That makes a lot of sense too. That's yeah, that makes complete sense to me. Honestly, it does. It's, again, that's why I love our discussions, because it's just like stuff that I hadn't thought of or not as knowledgeable about. And yeah, that was just a really fun one. That was so
good.
I had a lot of fun with that rock. I never heard of it until a few weeks ago, and then yes. All right. Well, do you have a strange encounter this week?
I do. So I'm going to talk about the Hexburg UFO. Sorry, not Hexburg. COVID brain. The Kecksburg UFO incident. Huh. My apologies. You ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. So on December 9th of 1965, a large fireball was seen in the sky, falling downward, as it seems. It wasn't, however, only seen in Pennsylvania. It was actually spotted in 6 other states. So it was actually visible enough in 6 other states that it was actually reported.
Wow.
Hot metal debris was reported to have fallen into Michigan and Ohio. And in Pittsburgh, something crashed into the woods. The thing that crashed into the woods was said to be surrounded by a blue smoke or a mist, and that the earth around where it crashed vibrated. Yep. So in a lot of the strange encounters we do, especially UFO related, there's obviously going to be stories built around to make it not a UFO. This has one of the stranger cover-ups that I think I've ever heard. So
sometimes the cover-ups are almost better than the actual event, because so I'm excited. Here we go.
All right. So the most heavily reported excuse of the fireball was that it was actually a meteor bolide, and you said that was just a really bright meteor, right? Like an extra bright one?
Yeah, like a extremely bright meteor.
All right. And that it was just entering the atmosphere and it happened to burn up. Now, in 2005, so mind you, let me go back and tell you that this happened originally in 1965, and in 2005, it was released that in the 1990s. So 65, 2005, the 90s for some reason. that scientists in the 90s studied the fragments and confirmed that they were pieces of a Soviet satellite. After this research was done, though, in the 90s, all of the research and proof went missing. And in 2005, they decided to release this information.
Yeah. So they study it 30 years later, which that in itself isn't necessarily that strange because they'll revisit certain things and study them. But it's still a little weird that it's 30 years and then you still don't hear about it for another 10 years, another decade. And yeah, that's very, very convenient to me. Like, and like you said, like you prefaced right as you were before you said it, it's, you know, a lot of these strange encounters, there's, you know, these wild sort of cover-ups or whatever, or the way they try to cover up. And it's, sometimes they can be insulting to your intelligence almost. It's just like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like you are legit gaslighting us and we all know it and just have to accept it. And it's because like what else are we gonna do? We can't go up against the air, whatever, you know. So that's like, it's frustrating at points too, because it's like getting gaslit is just a very bad feeling. And then it's yeah, that's strange. I mean, you look at it and something strange happened there. It made the earth vibrate. It was seen in 6 states, which a meteor that can have, you know, it can be seen. But then did you mention something about blue smoke?
Yeah.
Yep. Because I was trying to write as we go. Made it vibrate. Now, usually, you know, 9.9 out of 10 meteors burn completely up before they even touch the ground. You know, and then you have a few that don't. This one had to be big enough to make the earth vibrate, and seen in 6 states, and like it would have been way bigger news. Like if that was a meteor and like they would have been studying the hell out of it because it didn't burn up. Because something to make the earth vibrate to make the earth vibrate, it's got to be pretty big. So that means it was either exceptionally large and was still very, very large even after burning up, you know, or it's something else. And I'm leaning towards something else because then the weird sort of cover up and like you said, the blue smoke. And great story. And that's why, you know, we always say, oh, these strange encounters, sometimes they're short, but they're always cool and fun. And it's okay if they're short because there's always something good to them, whether it's the cover up, whether it's the, you know, it's a great choice. Great choice. I love it. Never heard of it. Love it. So, all right. Anything else this week?
Well, I think I've said all I have.
Yeah, that was a fun episode. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to join us next week when we set up camp in Utah. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, tune in, boys. Until then, happy camping, guys.
Bye.